listening to Tiger Talk Flash Report.
All right, shout out to the fam. Appreciate y'all joining us for this episode of Tough Tiger Talk. We in the building. Much love to the fam. Recapping this one, and I don't want to wish to do this, to recap this hideous monstrosity of a game. LSU was literally demolished, taken apart, and just put on just spanked, destroyed, whatever you want to call it. That's what the hell happened to LSU yesterday. They let us down in a major fashion. We have the post-press conference from Brian Kelly. He was upset and peeved, and we're going to talk about it in this episode of the show. So feel free to light up the comment section if you got to still stress it out. Much love to you guys. I'm Big Q in this one. We got my host, Mozzi, chiming in on this one. Post-game reaction, he was kind of peeved. I was peeved as well. Did a mini recap right after the matchup last night when the game went final. And we kind of had an opportunity to kind of look at it from another day. So we're going to kind of focus on this thing moving forward. So let's keep it going, man. In this episode, we're going to bring in Mozzi. How you doing, Mozzi? Much love.
I'm awesome, brother. I'm feeling a lot better today than I was about midnight last night. I'm going to just be honest with you. Last night, I was kind of upset. I couldn't even get on the broadcast to redo it. I guess I cursed everybody in LSU staff, players, everything out. In about 14, 15 different languages. I just absolutely couldn't take it. I couldn't believe what I was watching. It was, people say it was the tale of two halves. And I don't know if I'm putting the cart before the horse, but I've been eating the vent for about 12 hours now. So please excuse me if I'm putting the cart in front of the horse and you had other things to do. Let me just chime in with you. Do we have other things to go over, or could I just, unleash? Or what are we doing?
Brother, we go ahead and handle your business, brother. Shout out.
Okay, so I had a couple conversations with a few people. I got a lot of LSU guys that I hang with because birds of a feather flock together, and they want to kind of make it a tale of two halves type things, but it's really not. You got to understand the 17 points LSU was able to put up in the first half should have probably been somewhere in the neighborhood of 31 to 35 because we got stopped on 4th down in the red zone. We lived in the red zone the whole first half. We had miscues, we had all kind of things that worked against us, just sheer stupidity. And again, just like we elaborated and we talked about on Saturday's show, we don't get a preseason. So it really comes down, both teams are going to make mistakes. It really comes down to what team has been together the longest, has gelled together the longest, and what team kind of wants it more and will make those adjustments on a fly to correct those mistakes. As we all saw, FSU could have actually had either been tied on the lead in the first half because they dropped several key passes. And I mean, these are guys that'll be playing on Sunday dropping these passes. It just happens when you haven't played football for, the last 8-9 months. All you've been getting is, your own guys, and I get, 7-on-7s, 2 days, whatever. But I mean, your biggest level of competition you've had thus far as live round action, has been scrimmage games and spring games. That's it. So now when it comes down to when rubber has to meet the road, nobody. This is not high school where they're giving you, okay, guys, we're gonna run 12 plays on offense, 12 plays on defense, and then we'll just rotate them to both sides. No. These guys have in-depth playbooks, in-depth play analysis. This is the level right before Sundays. So, if a guy can play, if you can play in SEC, Big 12, Big 10, Pac 12, if you're in these mega super conferences and you're able to play, that game should translate to Sundays, at least from understanding the schemes and what's being done. Does the talent translate? Not all the time. Does the light go off? Not all the time. But in a non-pressure situation where you're reading just the X's and O's, if you're able to do it on the collegiate level, you can do it on the pro level. So these are the receivers for FSU that was out dropping 5, 6, 7 balls in key spots and key places where I think that the score would have easily been, 24-17, possibly 31-17 going into half. We dropped several passes ourselves, and we could have easily had the 31, on our side or beyond. This is a very disheartening loss. Like we talked about off camera. I don't know why Coach Kelly does this, and I get it. You come from Notre Dame. Notre Dame is an independent conference. In order for people to respect you, you gotta play hard, you got to play big early. I get that. If you want the posters and the boosters and the coaches and you want these people to respect you, you got to come out early and punch people in the mouth. This is the SEC, Coach Kelly. This is not Notre Dame. This is not an independent league. You will definitely have a gauntlet to run starting in about 3-4 weeks, and that gauntlet is going to run for about 6 to 8 weeks. You're not going to get Gramblins and McNeese States on your schedule every, moving forward, once you get into that SEC, that meat of that SEC schedule, and everybody in the SEC can play. There are just variations of it, but I could take a Vanderbilt and put them in Conference USA in the Sun Belt or whatever, and they run through it. So, let's not act like this isn't the best conference in football. Now you got next year where you got a couple of other guys joining in. He's going to have to change his ideology of how he schedules early games. We don't have a preseason. He's got a lot of kids coming in from the transfer portal, and that just happens when you go on a win streak and you do unexpected things. These are kids. Kids are not, they're trying to get to the league. So if they're sitting at Tennessee or they're sitting at Auburn or they're sitting at A&M and they're like, yo, you know what? Either this program isn't getting it done for me, from a dubs and losses standpoint, or I'm not getting the playing time, just like we saw Kamara had to leave Alabama and go through Tennessee in order to get it. He's a phenomenal talent, maybe not generational, but definitely a great talent, and he's got a Hall of Fame career coming up. But he had to kind of move around to get that exposure. So it just happens, especially in the SEC, because again, you can only have so many guys on the field. I get that, but you got to kind of scale back and become a poised seasoned coach. Do any of us see Nick Saban, right, first game or two of the season, wanting to go play a top 10 ranked opponent? No. You know why? Because he understands that those opponents are coming down the road in the form of LSU, in the form of Georgia, in the form of Auburn, in the form of Missouri, in the form of Florida. He understands that he's going to get everything he's looking for between the last week of September and the last week of November. That is a brutal gauntlet. So yeah, for the first couple games, we need some live rounds, but they don't need to be, threw the baby out with the bathwater. You killing the mosquito with a sledgehammer. What do you need to do that for? I don't understand it. It was bananas to me. That's nuts for you. This is the second year you pulled that off, and then you got SC scheduled for next year. Like, come on, bro. Like, we don't need that. Let's get tenure into the season, let's get a couple games under our belt. It's called confidence. We got to get what do you think, especially for some of the younger guys, where do you think their confidence lies today after having these people virtually beat with 5 minutes left in the third quarter? They were on their last chicken egg, and then all of a sudden, they got a few things going. They exposed a few things in the secondary. The front seven for LSU got kind of tired, and that was ball game. That was a wrap. They got anything they wanted, anytime they wanted, to the point where it almost looked like they were going into the huddle. You remember how we used to do back in the day? Look, this meat is you. You run here, and just wave your hand. I'm going to throw it to you. That's what they were doing out there. It was at least 2 touchdowns where it was just a 50-50 ball. And here's the thing. It wasn't like they were overmatched in stature. They weren't overmatched in stature. So it was just like, I'm just better than you are. It doesn't have anything to do with physical size. It doesn't have anything to do with prowess. I am just better than you. We all know it. My quarterback knows it. My coach knows it. So I'm going to take you in isolation to the corner pylon of this end zone. I'm going to just have my way with you. I'm going to do that for a couple scores. And they just didn't care. They punched us in the mouth and laughed about it. I'm done. I'm done.
All right. That's a lot, man. Shout out to the fam. Tori, yeah, I checked it. I didn't see him on there on the block list on there, bro. I don't know what's going on with that. I didn't see his name on that. I don't know what to say about that one, bro. Like I said, I don't see him on there. I'm gonna try to see if I can look again, but I ain't see him. But anyway, shout out to the fam. Appreciate y'all being here, man. We're gonna recap this thing, and I'm pretty sure Mozzi got a few more words that he's gonna say. Let's hit the recap show of what Brian Kelly actually had to say after LSU's ridiculous loss to FSU. Here we go.
Yeah, congrats. Second half, they were the better football team tonight, and we certainly are not the football team that I thought we were, got to do a much better job, obviously, and developing our football team. We clearly were short in a lot of areas tonight, and that falls on me to get our football team to be better in tonight. Execution in the first half, the inability to convert in the red zone. Second half, didn't play with a sense of urgency. All of those fall on coaching and getting our players to recognize that and make those kinds of choices in practice. And then defensively, obviously, to slow down the running game in the second half. The counter play was problematic for us. We knew they were going to run it. They added a two-back counter play, and we couldn't fit the play. And that's unacceptable from a coaching standpoint. You've got to be able to make those adjustments, and we failed to get that done. So, again, I take full responsibility for not having our team playing the kind of football I thought they would, and our players have got to make a decision that, to get back to on their efforts and their focus, and this is a total failure on a coaching standpoint and a player standpoint that we have to obviously address, and we have to own, and we'll see. I know adversity is always going to strike at some time in this game, and this is our first real piece of adversity, if you will, that we have to address, and I'm confident our guys will and our coaches will rally in the manner that they need to. So with that, we'll open up to questions.
Jacques Doucet, WAP-TV in Baton Rouge. Coach, the second half, do you think it was physicality? Or are you surprised that they pushed you around and 31-0?
Yeah, I'm quite aware of the score, and I didn't like the way we came out. Responsibility for the way that we came out in the second half. It's disappointing, but the buck stops with me, and I've got to get our football team to understand and recognize that you've got to play this game for 4 quarters with a mentality, and we just did not. For some reason, we thought we were somebody else. We thought we were the 2-time national champion Georgia Bulldogs or something. I don't know what we thought, but we were mistaken.
Right. Just the defensive matchups that your DBs had to face all night. Clearly, they're gifted receivers. Anything that you guys can do, anything that you saw that they could have done during this game?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Coleman's a tough matchup. Wilson's a tough matchup. I thought we competed there. No, I don't know that there was much more else that they could have done.
Brian, the 4th down calls, can you take us through maybe the reasoning for those decisions there and what you would have liked to have seen done differently?
I think they were pretty easy calls. 4th and goal from the 1, that was a pretty easy one. We're trying to run the football with an option for Jaden to pull it, and we'll have to just go back and look at the film and see what the looks are for him, and do a better job of addressing that in practice and giving him those kinds of pressure looks that force you to make those quick decisions. But no, those are pretty standard fourth down calls and decisions. I think both of those were, read option kinds of decisions that Jaden was confronted with.
Coach in the back, Jada Ferris, Tiger TV. What does this loss mean for the rest of the season for you guys, especially as you get into conference play?
It means everything as to what our mindset is. Like, how do we handle this? Is this who we want to be? Or do we look at this and say, this isn't the kind of football team we want to be? So, when you have these kinds of losses, they're disappointing, and in some instances they're devastating losses, but it's how you respond to them. And they have a chance to respond to this very winning performance in the second half. And so the choices they'll have to make will be ones that start tomorrow. How they handle themselves 24/7 is really what I'll be interested in seeing.
Hey, Coach. Glenn West, Go 247. Just curious on, Logan Diggs wasn't out there tonight. Just curious maybe what happened with him. And then also the running game as a whole. Just how do you guys think you can get that going?
Well, I mean, everybody's searching for balance in the running game. So we didn't have the kind of balance that we needed. Logan Diggs was a coach's decision. I don't know quite whether he's 100% and able to practice at the level that we need him to quite yet. Yeah, I mean, look, everybody's looking for that balance in the running game. You saw what we tried to do. We tried to run the football in those very important downs, and we weren't as effective. And we're going to go back and we're going to work on it, and we're going to continue to be diligent in those areas because we've got to be better at it. So we've got a minimum of 11 more games, and I'm going to tell you now that we're going to be better, and we're going to commit ourselves to that.
All right, fam. That's Coach Kelly there. Mozzi, you heard what Coach Kelly said. Made a lot of stuff. He was upset about how the game played. LSU Tiger family member was definitely upset with how the game plan went as well. It was awful, man, to be honest with you. Before we get into the team statistics, let's hear your response on it.
Well, to me, it sounds like he was talking a lot of Chick-fil-A bowl talk to me, if you ask me. It sounds like he ready to wave the – see, the issue that I'm taking with this is he keeps harping on a meltdown in the second half. However, the reporter asked him straight up, what do you think about those 2 fourth down calls? How do you think that changed and altered the game in any way, shape, form, or fashion, whatever? And I got to be honest with you. It's like we're discounting the fact that the coaching decisions were horrible in regards to those fourth down plays. It just were. I get it. 4th and goal at the 1. Listen, as a fan, I 100% understand you going for it on 4th and goal. You feel like your guys bigger and better than their guys, and that's it. No, as an actual person that's responsible for the welfare of a football team and the continuity of a program, I'm taking my 3 points, bro, and I'm getting off the field. You do not know how that changes the game, what type of momentum that gives them, what type of looks does that give the guys upstairs that's looking down from above where they can kind of go in and tweak a few things and say, okay, this worked goal line. That you notice we had issues on every short yardage situation we had issues. I could even remember same thing going down to the end of the first half. We rip off a 35-yard run, and then we get two big plays where we run out of bounds, stop the clock. Long story short, we get down inside the red zone, I think to the 16 or 17. We got to settle for a field goal there. It should have definitely been a cash. How do you have over 20 seconds left inside the red zone with a timeout, and you got two other clock stoppage mechanisms, either a first down or out of bounds, and you gotta cash that in? See, the issue I had when it was time for you to kick the field goal, you tried to cash it in. When it was time to cash it in, you were more than okay with taking a field goal. Like that's not on any of the players, any of the transfers, that's on Brian Kelly. That's who that is on. And for him to have this delusion that it was just some magic meltdown, was it a meltdown? Did you give away 31 on that? Sure you did. But was that the reason you lost the game? I don't believe that's the reason you lose the game because of a second half meltdown. I think that from start to finish, we had chinks in our armor, and Florida State was just able to expose those chinks more in the second half. I think it was more of the game LSU did not play more than the game Florida State did play. He's neither here nor there because the scoreboard reflects the overall sentiment, and that's why we're going to get punished in the polls. That's why nobody respects us, because when we lose, it's not like when Alabama loses or when SC loses or when Texas loses or Michigan or Ohio State loses and they drop 2 or 3 points in the poll. They play a Wisconsin or they play an Auburn or they play an Oregon or an Arizona State or a Cal, and they're back in the hunt. See, now we got to win out. We got to beat Alabama. We got to bring bone marrow from the horn of a unicorn. We got to slay a dragon. We got to catch a Meg. We got to do all kinds of stuff to get back in contention. And that's just how they roll. That's how they've always rolled with any SEC team that's not from Georgia or Alabama. If you're Auburn, Alabama, Georgia, even Florida, you're going to get the benefit of the doubt. Even though we've got multiple championship runs in the BCS era, we got 3 chips in the BCS era. We've been to 4. They don't care about that. We're still not respected as valid competition. You know, I'm surprised we got the number 5 nod. We got the number 5 nod, and now we blew it. So we probably dropped 10 slots. Even though we lost to the number 18, we'll drop 10 slots. They're going to punish us because of it. They're not going to punish us because we lost. They're going to punish us by the fashion that we lost, coupled with the fact we just LSU. They're trying to get us as far away from Alabama as they possibly can. They don't want any type of 2010 energy, and you know what I'm talking about. They don't want anything like that there. They're trying to get us as far. They don't want 2011, 2012 energy. They don't want that. When LSU and Alabama were always going at it, and it was like a hit or miss thing. They don't want that. What they want is they want Alabama to be completely segregated, along with their darlings, Ohio States, Michigans, all of these other teams. And I know we're better than them, but we didn't play better than them. And again, you're not afforded a preseason. You have no idea what you're working with. You have no idea what's going on. You're the prize. Florida State hadn't won anything valid since what? What's the turnover machine? They haven't won anything valid since like 2013, since Jameis Winston was there. They haven't won anything valid since like 2012, 2013. Honestly, you're the prize, LSU. They play in the ACC, not the SEC. You playing them is a step up. I don't know if any of the family members ever shot dice, right? We taking it all the way back to the street, shooting dice. I'm not going to be shooting dice with you at $100 a come out and $100 a point. That's a $200 roll. You got some guy standing there that doesn't even have $200 in his pocket, and he only wants to bet points he knows that's going to be difficult. When an 8 is roll, he's invisible. When a 4 or 5 is roll, he's always there. You know, we got to make better decisions. Florida State benefited from that, win or loss. See, because even in the loss, the game was close enough for people to still make Florida State relevant. If we lose, we drop in 10 spots. Like, you gotta start thinking in those type of terms. It's absolutes. Like, you lose, you get punished. There is no benefit of the doubt. There is no shake back. You know, all kind of stuff is gonna have to happen for LSU to get back in the title hunt. And it's a damn shame that we've got we on paper, our roster is that talented, and we be back in the Chick-fil-A Bowl. Go ahead, man. I'm done.
The Chick-fil-A Bowl. All right, man. Listen, keep playing like this, we'll end up in the toilet paper bowl, man. Listen, we don't need to do none of this, man. It's I applaud the LSU Tigers for taking the stance, Mozzi, of challenging and going at Florida State. You know, it's a top 10 matchup. It's the best matchup of opening week for college football. They just didn't execute. You know, they didn't execute. This game was up for grabs going into the halftime. And then Florida State, you could see what a change was. It was very evident. Florida State went into halftime. They made the adjustments. They came back, established a running attack because Travis was having issues. The Tigers had him rattled. He was just up and throwing the ball. And then when they gave him the running attack, he settled down and then he made the throws. He started finding the tall wide receivers, and they made it happen against LSU's faulty secondary. But then again, a lot of that was brought on by the fact that the offense was so dysfunctional. Jaden Daniels was shaky in the game.
He's not that guy. Let's stop the Heisman foolishness. He is not that guy. Did you see him? Was he smiling in that press conference? I couldn't really tell.
No,
because I got bad eyes. Huh?
Well, he would kind of had. I don't think he was smiling. They understand that it's a long season, and that if you're going to lose this type of game, losing the game early in the season, you can recover from this. Losing to Florida State, even though I don't like the fact that we lost to Florida State. In true Louisiana, I got you, brother. I put you in on the sports coma as a moderator, so you don't have to worry about somebody got in your block. I didn't see you blocked on there, but now you're a mod, so don't sweat it. But the reality is, going back to the LSU, I just see that it wasn't a bad strategy, Mozzi, for them to go at it, even though I know Nick Saban is a play it safe type of dude, to see if he can establish what he got going. I can applaud what Brian Kelly was attempting to do. It's just they didn't execute. They didn't come in with the energy that you're supposed to bring when you open that season up. They didn't bring it. In the first half, they were there. The game was hanging in the balance. The defense was doing what it's supposed to do. Then they had these weird ass decisions that they were making that just didn't make any damn sense. And then at the end of the day, everything went opposite. When they started the second half, it all went away. They outscored LSU 31-7 in the second half. That's how the game was won. Yep. So anyway, let's jump into some of the team statistics, my brother, and then you can continue to vent as much as you would like. Because you vent for the Tiger Nation. They feeling you. All right, so anyway, the first down 23-22 LSU there. Third down, ridiculous. 3 on third down. They were 0 for 3 on fourth down. That's a horrible. Florida State was 9 of 14. And shout out to Florida State, man. They came out in the second half and just took the game. They were 1 for 1 in fourth down. Total yards, almost 500 yards of total offense by Florida State versus 460 by LSU. So nothing to be proud of by either one of those defenses, to be honest with you. The completion to attempt ratio, 22 of 37 by LSU versus 24 of 32 by Florida State. LSU 9.4 yards per attempt, while Florida State, every time Travis threw the ball, it was over a first down, more than a first down, 11.2 yards per throw. They both had interceptions, one of which by Jaden Daniels was a ball that he threw out to the wide receiver. The wide receiver just fell out. He fell out, and the guy just made an easy selection, a pick on it. The rushing attack, Florida State 135 versus 113 by LSU, and most of that was, the majority of that yard was Jaden Daniels, 54 yards and 113 yards for Jaden Daniels, 27 attempts, over 4 yards per carry by LSU, 4.0 for Florida State. Florida State had all the penalties, 7 for 64, LSU 2 for 30. Those two turnovers by LSU versus 1 by Florida. The time of possession 35-23 versus 24-37. All right, Mozzi, go ahead and comment on individuals before we go to the team stats before we jump into the individuals.
The only team stat you really need to know. See, what's the famous line? Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, no. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. You 0 and 3 on 4 downs, and you have the nerve to sit your Frankenstein head ass down in that press conference, bro, and still like, oh, I think he was the best. How do you think that, bro? How do you possibly think that getting stuffed 3 separate times on 4th down, and you called it the first time I can understand. The second time, maybe they diamonds are real. We might not need to do this. You triple down on it and did it a 3rd time, but then want to say about the players we need to execute. What that translates into is, I called a great game. They just messed it up. They didn't know what they were doing, and I get it. They're young and they're gonna come back. And he's saying everything to try. He's saying it's on me, but he's not using diction as though he understands it's on him. Do you understand? Like, how do you expect them? You don't have the personnel to match up in short yardage games against their front 7. You just don't. They showed you that 3 times. And then you're steadily, you have the audacity to talk about execution. The only thing that needs to be executed is your playbook, maybe your contract. I told you this from the jump. I didn't like this guy. I didn't like him coming in. I thought that he was gonna bring an independent Notre Dame-ish type of framework to the team, and that's what he's doing.
Come on, man. I understand you're upset, man, but yeah, he definitely got to make some adjustments. But Brian Kelly's an exceptional coach, man. Let's make no bones about it.
Independent and in Conference USA.
No. He has a track record now. He won in the SEC. He took LSU to the SEC championship, and he beat Nick Saban in his first year. You gonna discount that because we lost to Florida State this year?
I'm not discounting it because we lost to Florida State this year. What I'm telling you is, okay, nobody expected LSU to do anything, so the guard was down. Let me ask you: are you a Star Trek fan? Are you a fan of Star Trek? I am, and I can tell you.
You about to tell me shields down?
There's never been a show where they roll with the shields up the whole time. You know that when the Klingons came around, Captain Kirk had to tell one of them, "Yo, put the shields up." Hey, with the black chick, Narubi, whatever, had to tell her, "Yo, put the shields up." Right, put the shields up. Put the shields up. You know why? Because nobody expected no asteroids. Nobody expected a Klingon bird of prey to pop up and start shoot. They didn't expect any of that. So yeah, you snuck into the SEC.
I just thought it was a power thing that having the shields up takes a lot of the ship power. So
whatever it is, whatever the reasoning, nobody saw you coming, LSU. There was no reason for the shields to be up. Now you went to talking. Now you got a number 5 ranking. Now you got a quarterback in the Heisman conversation. You know what that means? You got a target on your back. Everybody's bringing their A game to play you, at least the reputable teams, because they feel they deserve a spot at the table. They understand what you're saying, but they also have their own individual claim to the same accolade you want. You got to understand that. You got to understand that this is not last year where people expected you to win 3-4 games. So nobody came out and took you seriously. Especially Alabama. Alabama's loss last year was more about we didn't dismantle Alabama. It wasn't Joe Burrow. It wasn't the 2019 Tigers, but we just like physically went out and just dismantled people. Like, you know what? Coach Prime in Colorado took TCU's heart and dismantled TCU. All things considered. We didn't do that. We didn't come out with that same ferocity. We came out thinking it was sweet. Daniels is smiling every play. You know I don't like smiling quarterbacks. You know that, right? You know I hate smiling quarterbacks. I hate that. Like, bro, you're the point guard.
He was smiling every damn play. Yeah, he was smiling. He a little too happy out there. Too happy out there. Hell, you all that like that, man. Stop all that damn smiling.
Daniels, listen, Jaden, brother. You are the point guard. You are the keys to the car. You make it go. You're the on-field coach. So if your head coach wouldn't laugh and smile and joke and josh, you can't do that either. Let me ask you a question. Did you see the front? What? I don't even know. I don't even know what receiver that was. What receiver? What? Did you see the frustration they had? Okay, I don't know if you remember late 3rd quarter. They had ISO at the top, right? The safety. Let me tell you how little regard they had for our wide receiver quarterback connection in play. Do you not remember 3 separate times they had isolation to the top of the screen, one-on-one coverage, and the safety refused to slide over and help,
That's
and
right.
Daniels blew that throw 3 times.
I know. Yeah, he did. I don't know what to say about that. That was just poor. He had a check down that he blew severely. So, I mean, I think a lot of it that he wasn't prepared. He damn sure wasn't comfortable behind that bullshit offensive line. I know we won't keep pinpoint the quarterback here, but the LSU were dominated in this game, especially in the second half through the trenches. They couldn't get enough pressure on the quarterback. First half, they did a wonderful job keeping them shaky. The offensive line for LSU never consistently opened up any lanes for the running backs to run. Jaden Daniels had to run for his life on several different occasions. They were manhandled by Florida State's front four, and it was evident throughout the game. So I was like, this is similarly last year. You would think that this line, which has guys from last year, would have had a better performance here. And they were totally manhandled, no guts, no nothing with that offensive line. And it was evident in the first half. So when the game was tied and LSU ultimately kind of kicked the field goal, we thought for a second that the game might be turned, but they never put their stamp on the game. The adjustments were
Ever. They always left the door open. But let me tell you, you score a touchdown there and you take that 3 on 4th and 1, right? That's a 7-point swing. That's 13 points. That's 10 points altogether. Now Florida State has to play a completely different ball game because
saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says food.
My bad. Go ahead, Mozzi.
You know they had to literally play. They would have to play a completely different style of game. As being down 3 and being down 10 means a completely different thing in the game of football. This is not basketball. Well, I'm down 10, I go down there, shoot 3 threes. I'm back in it. That doesn't work like that. You have to traverse, anywhere between 60 and 199 yards on average to score 7 points. So certain things you can do down 3, you can't do down 10. That changes the game dynamic. That's coaching. That has nothing to do with the play. You know what? I bet you I know Jade. What you think Jaden Daniels' favorite movie is, Q?
I don't know, man. If he keep playing like this, it's still Magnolias. I think that's probably what it is.
No, I got one better for you. How about Happy Feet? Bruh, you got to stay in the pocket, bro. You got to deliver the pass. You flipped and won, bro, and ran back 14 yards.
Yeah. I'm telling you, a lot of that was due to he didn't have confidence in the line. 64 yards, and let's hit the individuals. So let's go into the individuals. But first, let's play. This is Mozzi's commentary right here about this guy, and this is probably one of the funniest moments a president had. Let's listen to JW give that "Fool Me Once" speech.
Fool me once. Shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
Love that.
Your name is Coach Brian Kelly. He's the only one fell for it 3 times. And then you standing on it in the press conference. Bro, for this man to say, I think that those were the right calls. And you were 0, so you thought all 3. So the first time they stopped you, it was like, nah, that was a fluke. The second time they stopped you, it was the light must have gotten his eye. Bro, they stopped you 3. You made a cognitive decision to do that same thing 3 times and got punished all 3 times. And you're sitting in a press conference with your laughing smile. Like who? You sit next to the Joker in the press conference, right? And y'all are just fine, yo. Your hands folded, your head is taller than ever. How could you have a head that tall, bro? You're approaching Peyton Manning level height on your head, bro, with no brain inside of it. Come on, bro. What are you doing?
Mozzi, you're a little tough on the brother, man. The brother's a happy dude, man. You know?
For what, bro? There's nothing to be happy about. Bro, you were up 7 points with 4 minutes left in the third and lost by 20.
The guy's a happy dude, man. You know what I'm saying?
And then he, bro, you know what really sent me to the moon? This dude had the nerve to have an NIL. Who's an NIL with? I saw a commercial. Bro, Jaden has a commercial, bro. He's got an NIL with somebody. Who paid this guy? I bet he don't have it today. Bet that. I bet that contract is up for renegotiation. What?
Well, I don't think this stopped Gene Daniels from smiling. I think LSU will regroup from this, even though we got to have.
Yeah, sure, I'm smiling. I have a nationally televised NIL commercial. I've already made 3, 4, 5 million. What do I care? It doesn't matter to me. See, I told you, I warned you that the purity of this sport was going to be compromised once you started throwing money in it, bro. That would have, I hate to sound so old. 20 years ago, that would have never happened.
You sound old. You sound pretty ancient right now, brother. Just you do sound, man, in my day, that would have never happened. In my day, yeah.
It would have never happened, bro.
Said, Mozzi, in my day. In my day.
Yes, can you imagine Tom Brady or Drew Brees or any one of these guys in college smiling? I mean, they're barely seeing the field. Can you imagine them doubling down, making a bad play, and smiling about it?
Oh man, yeah. It's but you know what, though, Mozzi, a lot of the blame, we know we don't like smiling quarterbacks, and he was definitely out there overthrowing people, underthrowing people, and smiling about it. I think he's just a happy dude. During the press conference, he got up there and sat next to Coach Kelly, and Coach Kelly was about to, he was doing a little smiling up there. And I think he's a half, how the phrase go, a half glass half full type of dude. He's an optimistic, positive guy, so he knows it's a big loss, but he also realized that it's on him to come back and play better. But let's not just put it on Brian Kelly and Jaden Daniels. What about Mike Denbrock, the offensive coordinator? What about Matt House, the defensive coordinator? And we know the defense did whatever it did in the first half to keep them competitive, but then after a certain point, the offense was going 3 and out, and all of that fell on the defense.
Yes. I mean, brother, it's hard to play 70 snaps a game. It just is. It's hard to play 70 snaps a game and stop somebody 6'5".
That dude was getting out. Yeah,
like what?
Was that Chestnut getting roasted out there?
Roasted on an open fire. Yes, bro. That's what I'm telling you. Yeah, you saw it. Bro, you saw it. You see it.
Let's hit the individuals, Mozzi, on LSU, and I wanted to hear what you think about that. Jaden Daniels on the day, 22-37, 347, 9.4 average, 1 touchdown in the pick, 57.6 on the QBR. In the rushing stats, he led the rushing day, 15 carries to 64 yards, average 4.3 yards per carry. He had a long 40-yard scamper to help him out. And then really, Josh Williams had 4 carries to 44 yards. One of his runs for 35 yards to kind of get him up in the air. And outside of that, Noah Kane had 4 carries to 4 yards. He got a touchdown, the only touchdown. Well, one of 2 touchdowns on the rushing attack. Trey Bradford got in there and got 1 too. So we had seen 4 while running back. Jaden Daniels got them all in the day. Could have been a lot better than that, but they finished 27-113. I guess it's not so bad when you think about it, but really it just game changed. Brian Thomas had 7 catches for 142. He got most of that on a late garbage time touchdown from Jaden Daniels, and he scampered long 75 yards. Malik Neighbors got top threat, 6 carries for 57 yards. Bradford 1 for 55. Mason Taylor, the tight end, had an ineffective 4 catches for 39 yards. Kyron Lacey had 3 catches for 37 yards and a ton of drops. Aaron Anderson, who bobbled the punt return that gave it to Florida State.
Horrible. Twice. It was so bad they take him out of the game.
Yeah, he was. They benched him after that, fumbling the ball. And then, of course, you look at the defense. Omar Spates, we talked about him in the pregame. He had 8 total tackles in the game. Major Harris had 8 as well. Zay Alexander, the cornerback, had 7. And Andre Salmon, safety, 5, along with Swinson, the defensive lineman, 5 there as well. Harold Perkins had 5 tackles and was ineffective. And then, like I said, we talked about it. I talked about it recap last night. Was this game was just not a loss for LSU, but it showed the rest of the country how to beat this team.
Yep, no doubt.
You run right, and they showed, well, how could we slow down Harold Perkins? Just run it right at him. Run right at Harold Perkins. And it shows how he had
gas him every rip. Gas.
Yeah. They just run right at Perkins, and they showed a lot of weaknesses. Duke Chestnut, one interception on the day, and there you go with that. And then, of course, you go to the Florida State side of it. Jordan Travis, 23 of 31 for 342, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick. He finished 94.7 with the QBR. Top running for the Florida State team was Trey Benson, 12 carries for 47 yards, just under 4 yards per average. Travis scrambled 7 times for 38 yards, had a very easy touchdown, by the way, on one of them. Just waltzed right on in on the fake defensive back, totally went for the running back and left. Totally went for the run, just sold out for the running back. I was like, how did you just get that? Just sold out to him, and the quarterback runs right around empty. And then, of course, you see several other rushes right there. They put up a total of 135 yards on 34 carries, 4-yard average. Their top threat was Keon Coleman. Keon Killum should have been his name because he was killing the LSU secondary. 9 catches for 122 yards. He had three touchdowns, 3 catches for touchdowns on the day against him. He averaged over 13.5 yards of catching of average per catch on LSU. Johnny Wilson, the other wide receiver, had 7 for 104. Jaheim Bell and the rest of the guys were doing their thing. But boy, did Keon Coleman kill. And then you see Bethune was the top tackler for them with 9 tackles on there. So they got after Jaden Daniels, got 4 sacks on Jaden Daniels. LSU did not record a sack last night. They couldn't get to the quarterback to bring him down. But that Florida State line was just bringing the hell, especially in the second half. Jared Verse was doing his thing. I mean, they were just offensive line for LSU couldn't do nothing to stop these guys. They were annihilated in the second half. 31-7 was the second half score, and they demolished LSU, who scored a lonely garbage time touchdown on the back end of the game to try to make it respectable. All right, Mozzi, that's individual stats. Please feel free to chime in.
I've been listening to those individual stats, and I'm gonna tell you, what is everything that you read off, with the stat line being so large, meaning that everything seemed to be by committee, or they seem to be trying to find that spark. Here's the looming issue with the LSU Fighting Tigers, and mark my words, write down the date and the time so we can revisit this in 10, 11 weeks, and we know where it came from first. We don't have an identity. Our coaching staff doesn't have an identity. Our players don't have an identity. We don't know if we're an offensive-minded team, a defensive-minded team. When you look at when you see Nick Saban is a direct reflection. The Alabama team is a direct reflection of the Nick Saban personality. When you look at the New England Patriots are a direct reflection of Bill Belichick's personality. When you look at even Sean Payton, when you go back to the Saints and Drew Brees, that was a direct reflection of Sean Payton's high intellect, high offensive output personality. What's our personality, Q, if you don't mind me asking? Can anybody answer? Who are we? We know we have a football team. We know we got a lot of 4 and 5 stars, a few 3s sprinkled around there. But as far as a personality, who are we?
You're who Jaden Daniels is, and that's pretty much what the team is built around. Jaden Daniels. I mean, he's the guy.
Yeah, I get that, but who is he? What is he? Like, in other words, what? Okay, when I see Alabama play, I expect incredibly tenacious defense. I expect hard fucking pound town ground pound running, and I expect mediocre to low high class quarterback play if we have the right receivers, or if they have the right receivers. That's what I look at when Alabama plays. That's what I expect. When I look at, remember Oregon a couple years ago, maybe a decade ago, when they had Burner and they had all, when those guys stepped on the field, you knew they were about to score 100 points. You knew they were going to give up 90, but you knew they were going to score 100. When you came to play them, it's like, I'm going to get my 90. Y'all better get y'all. We ain't playing no defense. It is what it is. Shootout. Who are we as an LSU Tiger football team? Are we a defensive team? Are we an offensive team? Then when you do that, you got to subcategorize. If we're an offensive team, are we a running team or passing team? If we're a defensive team, are we a run-stopping team, or do we have ball hawks in the secondary? Who are we? We got a lot of players. We just don't have an identity. We don't have an identity. It's like an android. It's got eyes. It can operate. It can do whatever it's told, but it can't do things on the fly because it doesn't have a personality. It doesn't have a built-in identity of who it is. We don't have a built-in identity of who we are. It's a bunch of guys out there trying to do individual things, and hopefully they can get their turn to shine and make the wheels turn. But as far as an entity, as far as an overall overlooming team entity, who are we? What do we bring to the table? When I see LSU football, what am I expecting besides a heart attack, a very long Saturday afternoon? Besides those things, the obvious things, what am I expecting when I see LSU play? What did you expect out of them last night? What did you expect? What side of the ball did you expect them to dominate? Did you expect them to dominate? If so, who did you expect to dominate? And what facet of the game did you expect them to dominate? Those are all questions I can answer about any major program in the Power 4-5 conferences. I can't answer that about LSU. They fall into that weird Auburn category.
I think with LSU's philosophy is they rely on Jaden Daniels. I think that's a big thing. So Jaden Daniels struggle. It'll be a long night. A lot of the plays, like, I take it, they give you, I take plays, like when they stand there, he looks around to see if he wants to get the ball or to let the running back hold on to the ball versus him running the ball. I think that's overdone. That's way too much overdone. They need to kind of rely on more of the traditional style of offense. But even if they had did that last night, I don't think they would have been effective from a play perspective because they couldn't get the security needed because the offensive line wasn't doing a good job of protecting them. So, I mean, everything relies on Jaden Daniels. He's a guy that has a lot of college experience. He didn't play well last night because he wasn't comfortable back there. He was missing on check downs. He wasn't making the correct throws downfield. So he was off, and they struggled. And they didn't have a backup to go to. When the quarterback struggle, you go to the running attack. They didn't have that going. They couldn't even run the ball.
Nope.
So everything was put on Jaden Daniels' shoulder. And when he was already shaky, they had nowhere to go. So a lot of this has to be focused on them getting the proper amount of guys, the proper time on the field offensive line. So their philosophy is it's based on Jaden Daniels. Well, I know, but Mike Denbrock, who's the offensive coordinator, he needs to change this around, and that offensive line needs to be thoroughly chastised for this gutless, heartless performance they did because they had a similar performance, a really shaky performance in the first game of the week of last year. So they'll respond kind and they'll come back. So I think this will be a learning lesson. I think it's learning to just move forward.
Know the difference between last year and this year, though, Q?
They only lost by a field goal. They were competitive.
No. We wasn't number 5.
Yeah, that's true. And they will drop a bit. I don't expect them to drop. Maybe we'll see where they fall at. I don't. Let me check if we get the new standards up. I think those will come out till a little later. But
no, they got games tonight. They're not gonna drop it till tomorrow. They got games tonight.
Okay, yeah, they got the Clemson game. All right, so that's a part of it, man. But let's take a look at the schedule moving forward, man. Of course, LSU loses again. They lost to Florida State last year by field goal. This time they were demolished 45-24. Grambling State is next up next Saturday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. That's next, and then of course you see the next several contests. Alabama matchup: Grambling State, Mississippi State. Then they got that goes to Mississippi State at Mississippi State. Then it's Arkansas at home. Then away to Ole Miss, who's ranked 22nd right now, away to Missouri. And then there are 2 home games against Auburn and Army before they get the bye week to get ready for Alabama, and they go to Alabama. So a lot of tough that's what I'm saying here, Mozzi. I think the Tigers. Let's kind of do a little preview of the Grambling State game. I think they'll roll. What is it?
71-3 Tigers.
Yeah, they're gonna run over Grambling State. I hate to be the Grambling State Tigers after Florida State did what they did to LSU. They're gonna take it all out on them, and they're gonna run.
It wouldn't matter. I really wish they stopped scheduling games like that.
You wanted
uh,
them to be
Fla-
flop.
Fla-
Grambling should have been the first game, right? It should have been recounted.
yes.
All right,
Absolutely.
flip-flop. Yeah, it would have made a difference, though.
Yes,
Seriously, you
absolutely.
think so? It would have
Yes.
won against Florida State if they played Grambling in week 1.
If they play Grambling in week 1, you have a better idea of what you're working with, who you are, what's your strengths, what's your weaknesses. You have a better eye. See, because here's the thing: it's not the top guys that you're on the fence about. It's those transfer guys.
Well, you'd have Mason
those-
Smith, so
Yeah, but you get to see them against live action under the whistle in real game time situations. But you can't fix that intra game versus a number 8 opponent. That's tough. It just is. It just is.
okay. Let's look at the schedule. Grambling State's next. We know we're gonna run over Grambling State. It's Mississippi State at Mississippi State, Arkansas. I can really see LSU going on a winning streak over the next we got 6 games before we get to Alabama, to the bye week for Alabama. Then we have that. I can see LSU going, 7 games? I can see them going 7-1
No.
into the bye week.
If they don't correct their issue, they'll lose to Mississippi State and Starkville. Period. They play them tough all the time.
This is true.
They just
But
do.
but listen, Mike with the air raid attack and all that kind of stuff. Mike Leach passed away, so he's not there. Some things are gonna change. But I'm looking at it. I can see 7 wins here, and I think they do make the adjustments. Brian Kelly is not gonna stand for this. He's not gonna stand for this type of. This was an embarrassment to the program. It was a punch in the eye. So I mean, he's not gonna stand for that. He's gonna make sure these guys are focused. And besides, now he has all of their attention. We talking about staff included, all of the players. This is a punch in the face. They know they can't have these many. Their room for error has went out the window. They beat Florida State. They can move forward into the season. But it was a way they lost. They got punched in the face. They got demoralized. They got smushed down, and that's not going to stand. They're going to have a better performance. I could see them winning. I wouldn't be surprised if they won all these games, beating Grambling, beating Mississippi State, Arkansas, Ole Miss, Missouri, Auburn, and Army to the bye week 7-1. I wouldn't be surprised, Mozzi. What do you think?
I think you're delusional. I think that they're definitely going to lose Mississippi State if adjustments are made. Arkansas is probably going to be a dub for LSU, but it's going to be a really long, tough game. I'm talking 24-21 type game. And then, you go. I got them.
They won't make the changes. What make you think they're not going to make the changes? They're going to make the changes.
Listen. I don't care how much I change my car. It's not going to be a Lamborghini. I could put Lamborghini stickers on it. I could put Lamborghini seats in it.
I don't think that applies here. I'm saying
why don't you? They don't have the personnel.
So you mean to tell me they don't have the personnel to beat a Mississippi State? Are you kidding me?
They don't have the personnel to make those changes on the fly for everybody to be on the same page. Are they more talented than Mississippi State? Yes. But they've been telling you this for 2 weeks now. They've got the better part of 15 or 20 players, people that's getting in games, starters included, that don't know the playbook. They still can't comprehend what's going on. So it doesn't matter, bro. I could be the biggest, strongest dude ever to walk right? But if you put a blindfold on me, I'm not very effective.
I don't think they blindfolded. I think that they just this was a poor executed game. I think that they'll come back and play. I think Brian Kelly is going to make the adjustments. The team is going to play focused and better over the next several weeks. And I think you're discounting the fact when you get thumped on like this, when you get smacked down and punched down like what LSU did in front of the nation. They got just embarrassed. Mm-hmm. The coach was upset, visibly upset. He demoralized his team. He disparaged his team and said, he says, I thought we were better than what we were. I was mistaken. I was there. I thought we were a lot better than what we actually were. And then Jaden Daniels turns and look at him when he was talking.
Did you see him shake? But did you see Jaden Daniels shake?
He kept his pokey face. He was indifferent about it.
He was indifferent about it.
He kept his pokey face. 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 He kept his pok he wasn't indifferent, but he kept a poker face because you can't, this is your he's the starting quarterback here. He understands that Brian Kelly is talking about him. If he performs better in this game and makes throws in this game, they win the game, because Florida State would have never gotten that momentum and just take off like that. If he makes some throws and wide receivers make some catches, they would have been fine. They would have came out perhaps with a close. They would have came out with a close win. But what I'm saying is, he's talking to Daniels, and Daniels has got to bring that message to the players in the room. They're all going to be on the same page. Brian Kelly is a dude that he is a winner, and you don't win as much as he did. People saying he didn't win anything. Everywhere the man went, he won. Everywhere the man went,
winning record, but he didn't win anything. Is what I think that's what the family's trying to say. He didn't win nothing.
Regardless or not, you don't get to LSU unless these people believe that you could take them to the next level. The man he knocked down Nick Saban. Whether you want to say Nick Saban, he caught Nick Saban slipping. None of the LSU games you're gonna catch Nick Saban slipping, because Nick Saban has an in for LSU because he wants to beat you, because he was hearing how they departed, how they got apart, and how that relationship went when he went to Alabama. So you ain't gonna catch Nick Saban slipping your LSU team. I don't care who you got head coaching the thing.
Well,
but
you know this should have hired you.
I'm saying
Brian Kelly's publicist, because that's who got him the job. Because obviously he didn't win nothing, and he coached that Notre Dame. First thing I would have done as the AD. Listen, Brian, none of that Notre Dame shit here, bro. None of that. Do not bring anything that you did in independent conference and think it's gonna work in the SEC.
I think the offensive line for LSU has to play better. They were manhandled by Florida State in the matchup. You can't win these games if the lines don't step up. You have to win the war in the trenches. They didn't do that. You had wide receivers that were dropping the ball. They were fumbling. You had guys that botched the punt. You had mistakes all over the field. These guys were not prepared to play this game. And if they
you schedule St. Ole. That's why you schedule Holy Cross in the first week.
You got a point on that, because the last 2 years at LSU started off, it's been the same thing. They played Florida State early on, but Florida State don't seem to have a problem needing no Seminole or Fauché or Warren Easton to beat up on. They don't need that. They got LSU there, and they win in these games. So I'm saying what they can do, you could do. So I'm saying at the end of the day, I think they do make the adjustments. I think ultimately when it comes down to it, I do see 6 or 7 wins. I'm going to say 7 wins here. I think they can beat all these teams if they stay focused. They're not going to not make the adjustments, Mozzi. That's not how this is built. They lost this game yesterday because of poor execution, because they coming out of the gate rusty as hell. That's why you want them to play St. Aug, the Sisters of the Poor. So I mean, this type of stuff that we got going on. But I got strong. I think the man gonna make the adjustments. If they're gonna step up and they're gonna play better over the next several weeks, because they know their margin for error is very slim. You give him one of these, but you lose something like this, it's good to lose it early than late. So in the end, man, I think we're gonna change things around. So anyway, I'm gonna give you the last thoughts on it, bro. You got the floor.
Okay, so here it is. LSU versus Grambling State, Tigers versus Tigers, or Tigers versus Cubs, however you want to look at it. If we don't hang 40-plus points and prevent them from scoring more than a touchdown, we in for a long season. We'll see how these adjustments are made, because they got a free week, basically a bye week, to make any adjustment they want and go out here and play the equivalent of Kenilworth on a collegiate level. If they can't go out here as a highly ranked, highly touted SEC team and hang 40 or better on these people this Saturday at Tiger Stadium under the lights in Death Valley, we in for a very long season. We're going to see just how much change has been adopted. We're going to see all of that. Because if they can't, the score of this game, honestly, I know I talk a lot. I know I give a lot of crazy score. If this score isn't somewhere in the neighborhood of like 48 to 52 to 10, we in for a long season. That's all I got to say about it, brother.
All right, so if we don't score 50 points on Grambling State, we got a long season.
And prevent them from scoring beyond 10. We in for a long season.
Okay. All right. So let me just ask this before I go. Out of the next 7 games we have, how many games do we win out of the next 7?
Let me get those opponents again. I got Grambling State, Mississippi State, and we got who was after
Mississippi
that?
State at Mississippi State, Arkansas at home. You go to
I'll
Ole
give you a
Miss.
breakdown. I'll give you a breakdown. Questionables meaning those are possible losses. Dubs and L's are what they are. So Grambling dub, Mississippi State question, Arkansas question. Next,
Come on.
Ole
Miss. Ole Miss at Ole Miss.
Question.
At Missouri.
Dub.
Auburn at home.
Dub.
Why did you take so long to say that? We got Auburn. How about Army?
Well, because you're playing at home. Because you're playing at home. The only way that if you were playing at Auburn, it'd be a question mark there. Go ahead. Who else?
Army.
Oh, Dub.
Okay, so it's dub against Mississippi State at Mississippi State. It's a question mark.
Yeah.
Question mark at Mississippi State. Question mark for Arkansas at home, and a question mark at Ole Miss. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, exactly. Those are 3 question marks. Now, out of those 3, I'm thinking you'll finish 1 and 2. So 1 and 2, or possibly, I'm thinking 1 and 2. So I'm thinking we're going into that bye week with 2 to 3 losses. If we don't, we'll know Saturday what we're looking at going forward. Again, if we can't hang 50 points on Kenilworth,
I just think you're being a prisoner of the moment, brother. You know LSU's going to turn this around, man. Come on, bro.
I don't
we
know
know
anything. I don't know nothing. What I thought I knew. See, what I did know was our secondary was trash, and I knew our players didn't get it. I knew Brian Kelly came in with a bunch of a freestyle independent league football play. We talked about all of those things Saturday, and every one of those things reared their heads to yesterday. What I thought I knew was a number 5 team that had crushed and went to the SEC and all of that. They were gonna come out and not want to lose. The same things you saying. Oh, they got a game taken away from them last year. They had an extra point and they should have won that game. You don't think they got a chip on their shoulder? Yeah, I think they had all of that and still went out there and laid a goose egg in the 4th quarter. Basically, the whole 4th quarter belonged to Florida State. And they played an entire game of football in the 4th quarter. Florida State did. I didn't think they were going to be able to do that. So as far as what I think, I don't know what to think about LSU at right now. We don't have an identity, Q. If we had an identity, it'd be something different. Like, there's no identity. We're not a hard-nosed football team. We're not a finesse team. We're not a high-flying, high-scoring team. Every prolific college or professional team you've ever witnessed in your life had an identity. We don't, Q. That's scary. We're just out there playing football, bro. We don't have an identity.
Yeah, there you go, Mozzi's I can't dispute that, bro. We definitely need to play. We definitely need to fix this. Whatever we got going on, we got to change it. We got to have more of a. I'm not mad at the Jaden Daniels style offense they're running, but we got to have more of a traditional offense as well, where we can be able to run the ball and go to the running attack if he starts to struggle. And that's what happened with Florida State with Travis last night. The guy was struggling in the first half. He was throwing. LSU defense should have had at least 2 picks in the first half. The defense was getting to him, rattling him. And what did they do in the second half? They went to the running attack that gave them balance. And then he started to make the throws to the bigger physical wide receivers downfield. That opened up everything. And of course, Mike House calling that in the second half of calling the defense where we were in doubling certain guys. Guys was wide open, not wide open, but one-on-one matchups that favored Florida State that was poor. Some of his blitzing assignments were questionable. So, the defense at some point before the bottom fell out in the second half were doing really ridiculous stuff like Florida State was able to normalize and started marching the ball on LSU defense. And then when offense came out there, they could not do anything because the Florida State defense says they shut the offensive line down. They couldn't even run the damn thing. Then they started putting pressure on Jaden Daniels. When they did that, it was over with. They had no plan B to go to. So Denbrock has to change all of that because it's all based on Jaden Daniels. It can't be unless when he starts struggling, you got to have something else to go to. And that's how it all ended wrong for them in my estimation. So anyway, with that being said, listen, fam, that's going to do it for this episode of Tough Tiger Talk, man. Recapping the Florida State smashing the Florida State smashing of LSU 45-24. We appreciate you guys chiming in. Please feel free to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and by all means, feel free to share the show on your social media feed. We up in this thing. Man, it's crazy how it went down, man. And we got to bounce back. I got to expect my Tigers, your Tigers, to bounce back against Grambling State. And I really do think they'll go on a bit of a win right here. We'll see Mozzi. He's right now a prisoner of the moment. But hey, man, we'll see we'll see what happens, man. We'll see how it happens. So with that being said, I'm gonna holler at y'all on the flip side. Much love to y'all. Go Tigers.
Subscribe to the Top Tiger Talk channel and stay up to date for all things LSU football.
That's right, the Pro Shop is the platform store where you can go and buy all the latest merch to support the platform. Available at the Pro Shops, we have dozens of hundreds of products available for you and your family. Unisex tees for men and women, hoodies and sweatshirts, tank tops, kids and baby items, long sleeve tees, mugs, pillows, wall art, bath bedding, face masks, phone cases, stickers, bags, fanny packs, socks, hats, and many other items. Please feel free to check out the Pro Shops. The link is in the description section below.
TheWhoThatDaily.com. That's right, TheWhoThatDaily.com. Your one-stop shop for everything New Orleans Saints, New Orleans Pelicans, LSU Tigers, even the top flight boxing news. So if you're a Who That and you're looking for a place to stay up on your team, TheWhoThatDaily.com is your site. TheWhoThatDaily.com for the sport Who That in all of us.